Yes, okay, I think this works. Well, a very warm welcome to all of you once again. I think we've got a very, very interesting group here. I'm told mainly entrepreneurs, if not entrepreneurs that have been at it for a while, then aspiring ones. I know we've got quite a few students here as well. So thank you for making the time this evening. We're going to launch straight into a Q&A because I know there's so many questions that all of you have. We've been baffled by the long list of, well, I received a long list of questions earlier today put together by all of you. I'm afraid we won't be able to go through all of them, but I did bring this with me. In case some of you haven't seen it yet, I'm sure most of you have. It is well worth rereading and rereading, which is what I've been doing for
If
the
you buy a
past.
copy, $2 go to charity. EDIS can, the rest I don't have.
So some of the more specific questions you can find the answers here as well. So without further ado, I'm going to launch straight into the questions that you've put together, Chairman, if you don't mind. And you're going to hear that I'm going to be referring to Mr. Philip Yeo as Chairman. I think it's something that many of us can't get out of our system. Once we've worked with him and gotten used to working with Chairman, it's always Chairman, isn't it, Chairman? So thank you, Chairman, for making the time.
Okay.
And I'm going to, break up the discussion into two parts. The first part may be a little bit more into the person. What makes Mr. Philip Yeo tick? And there are quite a few questions in this regard. Then I'm going to break and just get questions from the floor. We're going to do it traditional style. There's no online thing that you can go into. Please come up to the aisles. So start thinking about what questions you might have. And then towards the end, I'm going to move on to the future. There are quite a few questions about what sectors we think we should go into, future for Singapore economy. Those types of questions, we received quite a few as well. But first, if I can start, just as a person first, this one really tickled me because it's about curiosity. Curiosity. And I think it's a great segue into what we all know of Chairman's reading habits. How do you manage your curiosity? Sometimes we have so many curiosities, we tend to get sidetracked for our main goals. How do you manage all that?
Well, I have a habit from young of reading. So I used to be the librarian for SGI from Sec 1 to JC2. And the best way to find curiosity, go to the library, read, and ideas. So if you read a lot and continue to read, don't waste your time on chat. You will learn a lot of things. And more, you must be interested to follow up. So every day I have about 30 articles. I'm the biggest paper user. I still prefer paper. My secretary prints for me. I bring home and read between after dinner from 7 to 10. Then I share my torture with everybody else. Anyone who receives a call, I have to read. So by reading, you learn to realize there are a lot of things going on, and you must be interested. So curiosity doesn't come by chance. You have to be interested to read, in order to know what's going on. And my interest is very broad. So my own view is that for young people, my main concern today, many of you don't read. I'm not reading Straits Times, I mean reading serious articles from journals, from science, what have you. If you are interested to read, you will be curious to know that everything out there has much more information than you can know. So my reading covers from science to human development to anything I find is what I call useless information. So you must be interested. Curiosity comes from trying to find use of useless information. So my hope that young people do read, because if you read, you will learn to be curious. And you're curious enough to find what else goes beyond whatever you're reading. So curiosity doesn't come from the air, it comes from your interest to know what else is happening in different fields. And either keep your field broad. So please read. Don't waste your time too much on TikTok.
If I can elaborate, Chairman, you may not realize we now have a photo of your library behind us.
Yeah,
and
my,
you can
my
see
library is a mess because I ran out of boxes to keep them. So I lie on the table, but they're all certain logical questions. All the papers here is on CRISPR, and basically RA, and then the other papers on lots on cancer. I read enough about cancer every day. I send to scientists, make sure they read, because my interest is there are a lot of knowledge that we don't know. I'm an engineer by training, but I'm curious in everything, whether it's animal behavior, city planning. But you see, all those boxes, yeah, it's a double decker, there's no more space. So one box on the top. And my problem is that the cleaning lady dare not touch my table. So you can imagine there must be a lot of dust there.
If I can add, I was visiting Chairman again about a week ago, and we had a lovely chat in the library. And I discovered not only did he know which box a certain article was, but a box is maybe 3 inches thick, right? He knew which section of that 3-inch thick box that specific article was. And that's the depth of the familiarity with the articles. And my surprise was that somewhere in there's a shelf of what I would call humanities books. Shakespeare, poetry, then going into, Iranian history, fascinating. And one of the things that really got to me was when we were discussing articles, not only was Chairman discussing the content of the articles, he was going through who were the scientists, who were the researchers, name by name. And then after that, noticing which university they came from, Asian University, Western University, etc., etc. And maybe that, for me, is a segue to a topic that we know is very dear to Chairman's heart, people. Chairman is known as someone who really pays great attention to individuals, who they are, what they stand for. And the question that we got from the audience was, how did you learn to be a good people manager? Did you learn it, or was it instinctive?
Well, if you're a good manager, there's a lot of things you can do about yourself. So you need to find subcontractors. So you need to find someone else to pass on a job. So if I can find 5 subcontractors, 7, I can multiply myself. So the key is, Lily is laughing here, I'm very good at outsourcing work. So to find good outsourcing, you need to find a good outsourcer to pass on the work, or even Xiak Qing will know. So I'm very good at finding people to give the work to. When I give the work, the poor fellow or poor lady, whoever, has also to outsource to other people. Otherwise, it cannot be done. So when I was working with Dr. Goh in defense, he knows I always steal people. And Jia Chung Fo, Director Manpower, and anybody is lost in me there, it must be Philip Yeo who stole it. Because if it's good, it's with me. No good, I won't touch. So, so when people are stolen for any honor, the first thing they point, because if I can find good people, I can get more work done. I can pass on the work, I can do something else. So the trick is, if you want to multiply yourself, find subcontractors. So therefore, human capital is key. So when I was trying to build up biomedical research, I drew up a list of 100 scientists I want to recruit. How do I come to these scientists? I look at the journals, P53, RA, I look for the writers of the paper. The last writer, I go and call on them. And I go and see them at other university or even MRC. Most of the time they say, who is this guy? So then I persuade them, con them, bring them to Singapore, wire them, and then I get some time. So out of the 100 scientists I targeted, I actually got 30 to come full-time. The rest came on a part-time basis. Either SAA, Scientific Advisory Board, or pop me every now and then to review papers. But the key is that you can only multiply yourself by finding people who can take on the additional work. So the key is don't carry all the burden on yourself. Find subcontractors. So my job in all my careers, I'm a main contractor. So and I look for even Manoy here was smart. When I get a job, I catch a guy. And my reputation, once somebody works for me, is forever tied to me. You can't run away. What I call jokingly a slave forever. So if I can find him or she, because if I find good people, the job is done. So that's the way it is. No one can do all the job by yourself. You need to find good friends, good colleagues who can pass on the job.
It's, I reflect on the number of people who have followed you, if I may say, for so many years. And it's certainly true, not only do we work, there's a formal period of work maybe, but even after that, you're part of the community and you continue to bond as a community. So I guess if we can go deeper, what is your trick to getting good people to want to work with you and to want to put out their heart and soul to work
Well,
for
you got
you?
to con people. Con means convince. So the idea you must be able to get the person interested in something. I remember whenever New Chen see me, I'm up to something. So if I for coffee or a drink, there must be some agenda. Because I can only convince a person to do a job, which means I have to con him. And that's very important because you have to sell the same idea to him, and he or she has to be interested. So to get a job done, you must find almost like disciples or subcontractors. Convince them the job is done, and then they get it done. And the rest is whether the person carries on the same flame. You must share your curiosity and flame to them. For example, when Siak Ching was working with me, and I'm now on India. India is not an easy place to go. There's a lot of people go there. And so I asked Ratan Tata, can I get you to be my partner? I said, look, I never done any industrial park or anything, but I know you a long time, so whatever you do, I trust you. That was it. And Ratan became my partner with 40% Tata Group, 40% Singapore Group, and 20% was basically Karnataka government. And I reminded the Assign-Us people now called Capital Land. I don't know why they changed the name, right? This is the 30th anniversary, and today now in India, we have over 20 million square feet. Over 20 million square feet are IT. We are the only Singapore company listed on a stock exchange in Singapore, although the share price is very lousy. I think because our rupee is always coming down. But we're paying good dividend. And that project started because I was able to con Ratan Tata, whom I knew for many years from playing with computers, to join me in the project, but which have no skill. Finally, after 10 years, Ratan says, now the things develop, can I exit? So we brought him up. So the key to find people to be, you must con people. You must learn to convince people. That's a very important skill. If you can't do that, then you cannot multiply yourself. Right? For example, when I was built by a police, so I can't get a budget from government. I went to Neo Chen and says, look, I want to build a place for biomedical science. Can you build? Then you build, then Neo Chen says, what do I do? I said, well, you build, I rent. So Biopolis and Fusion Police is now 3.5 million and 4 million plus square feet. It's not funded by government. It's totally illegal. There's no government approval. I called Neo Chen at CHMTC to build the place, and I pay rent. That's how biomedical science was built up, physical science built up. So these are two government agencies. There's no government property, and just the tenant. Now my poor successors in A-Star have to pay rent to JTC. I heard latest complaint JTC increasing the rate. I better tell JTC slow down because as a research agency, most research agencies have their own building, maintain the building, all the headaches of repairing, guarding. And here, as far as I'm concerned, JTC is a landlord. They build a place, I pay rent, they take care of everything. If I were to run NUS today, I will outsource the building too. I don't own a single building, find some landlord to develop it. And then therefore, if I'm not happy, I can beat him on the head, scold him, repair it. When you are the owner of the building, you have to worry about all the maintenance, security, or the headache, right? So the trick is don't own the building. So, and the idea is that I must find a victim in Neo Chen, JTC, because JTC builds only factories. They will build a technology park, they will build a high story. Fusion Police, I have about 23 story, right? They have no skill. So anyway, they went to the bank, they got money. So what you know in Biopolis, Fusion Police, it's all illegal. And then I wanted a subway station because if I build Fusion Police and that building is alone by itself, I noticed there's a line between Buona Vista and NUS, right? Perfect place. So I asked MRT, Michael Lim was the chairman of LTA. I said, can you put a station below? I said, Philip, I have no budget. Well, very simple, we get JTC built, and then you take over the space. So JTC said, well, if you put a subway station, that building has high value. So we finished the station, took us 2 years to connect with the line. The moment it's finished, it passed LTA. Today it's called One North Station. Now, I was able to con LTA to allow me to do it, technically illegal. And that station actually belongs to JTC, technically, right? But we now managed by LTA. So the idea is, if you want to get anything done, go and con people.
And I think for those of us who are maybe in part of those teams at various junctures, I would reflect that, we never felt conned, which is the beauty of it, right? The smartness of hand, right? That we don't realize that this is conning, maybe, because actually there's a very deep purpose in what we were doing. And although we might say change rules or break rules, there is a way around things if it's really that important. Which brings me to a slightly different question, because I think for many of us in the audience, you know, maybe the environment might feel a little bit different now, might feel a little bit more difficult to so-called break rules or con or things like that. But maybe it boils down to a question that came up from one member of the audience as well, which is courage. How did you get the courage to do all these things, to go and stick your neck out and just go for it?
Well, when I was returned from Canada, I had to find a job. I went to PSC. He said, can you please wait? So I then applied for a job with EDB. And this is PSC said, no, you cannot go EDB. We have to transfer you to the ministry. After that, they rejected. Then I got a job with Little Industries. I got a job down there. I said, sorry, we cannot release you. After 4 weeks, I told you at PSC, that if you don't find me a job, I'm going to find a way to buy myself a bond. I threatened them. You must learn to threaten people. So I said, okay, but there's a job. They're looking for an engineer in defense. So straight away I moved. Less than 1 month of service, I disappeared into Mindanao. And the reason why I survived in Mindanao because I could break all the rules. Right? And at that time I had a minister who was very tolerant. So long as the job is done, how you get it, you steal it, borrow it, whatever, you get it done. And that's very important because you need to find a boss that's supportive of your courage. If you break a rule to get a job done, not for your personal gain, then you must have a supportive boss, and that's very important. So the courage comes from able to get a job done, and someone is covering my back. So the key in life is that you cannot choose your parents, you can choose your boss. And if your boss doesn't support you, look for another job, because courage itself doesn't stand alone. You need to have backers, willing to give us support or cover. And when I was in defense, I joined defense at age 24. At 26, I was in charge of defense, director of finance. And I was never conformed with civil service because most of the time I was always stealing things from here and there to get a job done. And the doctor knew I would find the resources. I sent my engineers to Tengah Air Base, steal all the British RAF equipment, bring it home. And job was done. But ultimately, the reason I could do that, I had the courage, but I also have a backer. So in your career, if you cannot find a good boss to support you, change job. Until the job is someone willing to give, because you can only get a job done if you have somebody giving you the blank check. And the keys, when I interview young people, they say, I want to know my job specs. I would not hire someone who asks for job. I prefer you to have no specs and have the freedom to do whatever I want. If a person comes to say, I want a job, so clear out duty, responsibility, the guy's an idiot. You're only restricting yourself, right? If there's no specs, I can do anything, right? So even stealing things from here and there to get a job done, so be it. So when people, an interview says, I want to know what's my job, where's my position. So young graduates, they just graduated this year, right? If you get a job offer, you find it interesting, don't think of the next step. Take the job, learn, it's no good, move on. But don't try to calculate the value of the job. The key is you have to learn. You learn by trying one activity to activity. And that's why I noticed a lot of young people say, I'd rather look for a very good job. They become called gap year. There's a very gap in your mind. Really, you want to find a job, and when the job is interesting, not look for another job. You must add value to your skill, not to worry about the money. I don't mind working for free if I can learn something. But today, young people all want a manager title, I want a high pay. They stay at home, become a gap year. I talked to one parent, says, nowadays the children all want to have a gap year. It says, when my son was a young boy, I don't believe in a gap year. I said, I believe in 24/7. He always complained, I never have a break. And that's a key issue. You must have an interest to do things, and you have an interest to do things, you can benefit your knowledge. Don't look for a job spec, don't look for a clear line of duty. Even the big borrower still to get a job done, so long you don't benefit yourself. That's the way you learn. You learn from making mistakes. You learn from asking questions. You learn from convincing other people to do your job for you, half your job if you can. So that's my advice to a lot of young people. Look, any job that's good, give it a try and learn. Don't worry about position, worry about job specs or pay. Because the value is personal. The more you do, the more you value, you increase your own value. And you don't worry about other people's valuation of you by pay or job title.
It's very sound advice indeed. And I'm going to, start to invite questions from the floor. Please do stand up and come to the mics if you would like to ask a question. And as you muster the courage to stand up and ask a question, I'm going to tell a little story as well, because the idea of getting the job done and creativity was so interesting. When I read in the book about how Chairman had his first job,
You
but
are
didn't
too
have
tall.
but
Take out a mic.
Yeah, I'll just finish the story. When he didn't have people to do the job for him, I mean, some might call it breaking the rules. I call it creativity. He found within MINDEF NS men who actually were with some disability of some sort and could not perform certain duties, and he got all of them to come. And that's how he stole quite a few hundred people to do the work. So it's a lot of creative thinking there. But I'm going to pause there. Please introduce yourself and ask a question.
Hi, Mr. Yeo. My name is River. I'm just entering my second year of undergraduate studies in NUS. So just now in your introduction, they mentioned a lot of like achievements that you have done, and a lot of the work that you do focuses on a lot of high-level, long-term goals. So my question is, whenever you craft strategies to tackle this sort of challenges, how do you measure your progress towards a certain goal, given that some of the results are only apparent much later down the line? And a follow-up is, how can you tell when something's not going according to your plan? How do you adjust, and when do you trust the process, and when do you decide that you should cut your losses or switch to a plan B?
Well, it depends on industry or technology you want to do. For example, I was just doing a Zoom yesterday. London is 9 a.m., Singapore is 3 p.m. This is a young lady discussing with me about cancer drug. Now, she's an Oxford graduate, PhD. She wants to set up a company in Singapore to work on T cells. Any of you know what's T cells? Put up your hand. Basically, T cells treatment for triple negative cancer, breast cancer. So I was asking me advice together with a CEO, a CTO. I said, as far as I'm concerned, if you want to do this project, you raise $40 million. The key is not in research. The development of drugs for triple negative cancer is quite a challenge. The key is, do we have a partner in the pharma industry that can support your clinical trial? Because the research is quite clear. The technology is there. You can do a phase 1. The difficulty is how to find patients in UK. Right now, it's all UK based. So you need to find patients in the US to do the clinical trial. And the only people who can help you are the big pharma companies, Bristol Myers, Novartis, Roche, to help you fund your clinical trial, to help you recruit patients. And this will take about 5 to 7 years. Now, this young lady is brilliant idea, very enthusiastic. So I asked her, what is your burn rate per year? She said, 5 million pounds. 5 million is a lot. 5 million pounds is about US, 7 million US. You got a fund of 40 million. It doesn't go very far. So if I were you, quickly start looking around. Your technology is there. I took a look at papers, send me the paper to read. Start talking to pharma companies. Because pharma companies have deep pockets. They can find you the funds to produce drugs. Clinical trial means what? I produce this drug. I give to patients who are really critical cases for free. I got to monitor the patients from phase 2 to B, C. And the patients may die, may not last, but it costs a lot of money. So this young lady is very enthusiastic, Singapore girl. She got a team. So idea is that you need to have a very long-term view, because I told her, if you work on this project, it will take you 10 years. You may not see any result, because clinical trial for new drug like cancer, triple negative breast cancer, is very challenging. So straight away, I have to take a long-term view. So you need to find enough money, enough budget, enough patience to do on. So whatever you do, there's a time frame. So it depends on the project. And the IT is easy, because nobody get killed by AI so far. Nobody killed by IT. But when you do drug development, it's very challenging, because we are not standard human beings. So every patient reacts differently. Some patients react adversely. And every clinical trial that we've dropped out, success rate may be 30%, but you must have the patience, the courage to carry on. So that's a very interesting approach, because as far as I'm concerned, this young lady, I told her, this project will take you 10 years. So now she's scratching her head, whether she has the courage to do it. I said, well, you must. If you cannot be willing to take a long-term view, this project will not take off. Right? And she gave me all the apps. I sent to two doctors, Dr. Kong Wai Lung and Dr. John Wong, review her approach, why she want to focus on triple negative cancer, because it's a very deadly cancer, affects young ladies as early as 40, and there's no treatment drug today. But at the same time, it's very difficult to find patients. So the key is that every project has a certain time frame. So this afternoon, I just had a young lady from America, came from Stanford, together with a PhD from Australia, to discuss with me about using quantum computing for cybersecurity. She talked about qubits. How many qubits? I said, well, the most powerful qubits are now in IBM and in China, they're working on qubits, because qubits is just a computing power. And to do that, to apply it to AI, to do for drug development, is there. But the key is funding. So she's now in town. She's now somewhere in the NUS giving a lecture somewhere, talking to our students. So you must be interested to take up any project. First thing, measure the time frame. How long is this project? You must have the patience and tenacity to carry on. When I started to launch my ASAR scholarship in 2001, for bachelor PhD, 2001 and 2002, I worked on a 20-year time frame. Bachelor degree, 3 years, 1 year of internship in Singapore, 5 years PhD, sometimes HTB 5-7 years. And you come home, you work for a postdoc of 3 years. It will take us 15 years to develop a young scientist. So Singapore government, oh, Philip has not produced anything. Yeah, but it takes time to train people. It takes time to develop, to build a durian tree too. But people are short term. And today, after 15 years, now young scientists are coming up. But one of the challenges of Singapore, we all have a trading mentality. You buy and sell. You don't take a long-term view. And that, unfortunately, is a situation. When I do anything, I do a long-term view. When I developed Jurong Island, Chairman TC at the time was using to complain, but I could no customers. I said, if I no island, no sand, how do I get customers? So I had to go around, talk to a Japanese company, American company, to convince them to come to Jurong Island. So I had to get Jurong Island reclaimed very fast, super fast. We spent $7 billion reclaiming Jurong Island, but we did it in 5 to 7 years. And a lot of companies couldn't believe it. But today, the island is there. The real estate belongs to us, 3,000 hectares. It's permanent. So whatever job we do, don't take a short-term view. But you must be realistic on time frame. Just I advise a young lady over the Zoom, your project take more than 7 years, definitely 10 years. And the biggest problem challenge is money. Right? Does that help you?
I think I also heard underlying the themes of being extremely well researched and well read, so you knew what kind of time frame was reasonable, and then finding partners, for example, a pharmaceutical partner who can give you the external market signal on whether or not it was going to work. But I can see that these two gentlemen have been very patiently standing, so thank you for that. I'm going to ask the gentleman in red first, because I think he's been there first. Could you introduce yourself and ask the question?
Yeah, Ken. When I heard that, Philip, can I call you chairman?
Yeah, go ahead.
When I heard that you're doing a fireside talk, I quickly signed up for it. I have the utmost respect for what you've done for Singapore. My name is Koh Seng Chun. I'm the founder of Dignity Kitchen. It's a social enterprise set up about 16 years ago to train people who are physical, mental, social, intellectual. It currently employs 200 people, of which 80% are disabled. Over 50% are people with over 50 years old. It's in Singapore, it's in Hong Kong. They have 6 bookshops, 12 bookshops altogether for mother who give birth to disabled child. It's a very successful project. I started 16 years ago. But in the course of the 16 years old, I learned a lesson, a lot of lesson. First of all, Chairman, if I may ask you, how you see the prospect of social enterprise in Singapore? In the last 16 years, we don't get anything special about it. And we went through a lot of problems setting it up. Second question I have is, I'm very fortunate to set up Hong Kong. Hong Kong has been very kind to me. They give us space, 6,000 square feet at Siong Hai Kai. They give us free accommodation, but they give us the free robot. For years, I've been trying to get Singaporeans to employ disabled people at home using robot. I can't get through anyone. I went to A-Star, and the first thing they always tell me, 徐总啊，钱哪里来的? Right. But Hong Kong, they give me 2 robots, 2 years, prove it. Right. So my first question is, how you see the prospect of social enterprise? I can tell you the COVID has been very tough for many of us. And the second thing I want to ask is that, how do we change the Singapore mindset to people to support more young people like this sitting here to do more social entrepreneurship? Thank you, Chairman.
Well, when Vivian was the Minister of Community at one time, he asked me to help him, so I chaired the Social Enterprise Committee. And then the key issue is how do we help all the social enterprises? So the 2 issues in social enterprise, one is funding. Money is very important. Secondly, to have volunteers or people willing to do a job with a passion to do it. The biggest challenge for social enterprise is you have to be put it this way, you have to be a capitalist first before you can become a socialist. You understand? If you don't have the money, you cannot do social causes. So don't start by social first and enterprise. It doesn't succeed. So the key, you need to find funding, voluntary or otherwise, that you can then support it. So that's very key. I had a friend in UK called Sir Roger Cohen. He was involved in setting up a venture capital. Long time I know him quite well. So he came out with this idea of social enterprise. That to fund social enterprise, I need a basic budget. And Roger is very smart. He's still running it now. He went to the British government and said, you know, in Singapore, in the banks in UK, most banks have debt accounts. It means the person passed on, nobody knows. And by law, after 15 years, the account is really like dead. So he convinced the British government, I remember it was more than 15 years ago, to transfer 500 million pounds of that debt accounts to a social enterprise. It's government regulated. And with that, it supported social enterprise. I don't think our MAS is very willing to do that, because if you go to POSB, OCBC, they all have debt accounts. They're serious. The money is there, but nobody can claim. So unless the law is changed, the money cannot be free. And it's a debt account. So funding is, secondly, you need to have passionate people to manage this job. And Roger does. In fact, I invited him to Singapore to give a talk. But the difficulty is that Singaporeans, the government is doing everything. There's no need for me to get involved. And that's one of the biggest challenges. The average person say the government is taking care of it. Why should I need to get involved? And that's a basic problem. I think government does too many things itself. Government learns to outsource and how to make the law easier, make the rules easier, rather than trying to solve the problem. And that's the biggest challenge. There are a lot of people willing to help. I know there are companies in Singapore helping them socially to find jobs. I have an entity which I set up called EDIS Care. I have a target to help about 300 kids from broken families, fathers in prison, drug addicts, crime. And these are kids below 12 years old. And I get volunteers, some are here to help become mentors to these kids. They all live in HDB, 1-bedroom, maybe 9 people in a 1-bedroom in Lengkok Bahru, where have you. And the biggest challenge is that the more they are neglected, the more we multiply. The problem passes out. So our aim is to find volunteer teachers to spend on the weekend teaching that child from primary 1 to primary 6. And also possibly as a baby, we provide milk powder, we provide, and I raise money. That's how the book started. The book was started not because I want to publish myself, but because they find a way to con people to part with their money. So they say, can we write a story about you? Then raise money. So the target for the book was $300,000 to raise the first startup for this help for these underprivileged kids. Fortunately, because of the book, we managed to raise $1 million. Not bad, but so now the key is not on the money now. You need to find volunteers. So I reach out to young people, both some of the scholars and some private, and they are helping out. Each of them take care of one child for 1 whole year minimum. And we also provide training for them to help these kids who fail every year. And this came about because I met the principal of one school in Punggol, said, look, Mr. Yu, I have these kids, 10% of them will never pass anything. And then because of family background. So finding money, finding volunteers, that's the way. You cannot depend on government, because government tends to be more on rules and regulations. You need to find volunteers. If you are successful in Hong Kong, that must come from volunteers. So the key is to market yourself to people willing to give that time. And the key is that you need to find people to multiply yourself. Does that help you?
Thank you, Chairman. We started a little bit late, so I'm going to take the liberty to extend it. The organizers have told me that I can end at about 7:10, if that's okay with all of you. And the gentleman there has been very patiently standing, waiting to ask. I'm going to let him ask the question and have Chairman answer. But after that, I see quite a few people waiting. So the next one will be a group of questions so that we can have enough of you ask your questions. Please, if you can, and if you could also keep your questions short. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. This question is more relevant for the students around here, and that is, and firstly, I want to say that I really admire your hunger for knowledge, and I wish to be as disciplined as you in reading. But as students, we have very limited time. So how much, if you spend too much time reading, then there is much less on how much you can do. So how do you balance reading and doing? And on the follow-up, as with all good things, if it's too much, to a certain point, it gets bad. So I'm curious as to how you balance like the information overload, because I feel like knowing too much is kind of, it can even be limiting. You should know how to a certain point, you should do more and know less, kind of. Yeah.
I don't think it's not possible to do more. Your time, we got, how many hours of sleep do you need?
8.
8,
Yeah.
I do with
Science.
5.
Okay.
5 hours is good enough
Okay,
for me.
fair.
So I subtract from 24, I got enough time.
Okay.
And secondly, you have to read fast.
Right.
You must skim first. You read fast first time, then you put the thing aside, and then later on you can read a second time. So don't try to read everything in one go.
Right. Okay.
So, and really, the key is you have to manage your time. It depends on your interest of subject.
So maybe like on a daily basis, how much do you read? How much time would you spend?
Well, on average day, I get about 30 articles.
How much in hours is that?
I went from 7 to 10. Then in the afternoon, go from 2 to 6.
Would you recommend that to students?
Huh?
Would you recommend that to students?
Well, it's up to you. When I was a student, I could read a lot. My only hobby was reading.
I see.
So as far as, I was also a librarian for 6 years. So I know all my library. I know to catalog this is my own library. I catalog my own articles. So, don't try to finish an article all by yourself. Try to read the basic, the summary, and feel. Then you put it aside. That's how I put it in boxes. I put boxes not to collect paper. Ideas, I will go back a second time. But I know where I put it. What's the subject area. So in a sense, you got to mentally put them in proper boxes and you read.
Okay.
First reading, don't expect everything, or you read fast, quickly, have an idea of it. Then I always use my yellow marker, I mark, and then go back a second time. So never a permanent reading, first reading. So the habit is you learn to read fast, that's the only way. Because you're trying to get a sense of what is the article about. You need to go through every page. The easiest way is you look at the introduction, the main thesis, the summary, the conclusion. And you have an idea, then it's worth pursuing it. So not all 30 articles I read thoroughly. Some I'll keep it, some I'll box it, some I'll throw it. So the more I read, the more I realize there's a lot of things out there I don't know. So you must be curious to continue reading.
Okay, thank you so much.
Thank you. Okay, I think I see two. There's some people sitting as well. I'm not sure if you'd like to ask questions. If you like, if I can ask you to also stand so that I have a sense of how many questions. But the lady in black, you can start first. We're going to do a group of questions. Yeah. Chairman has just given me liberty to go up to 7:20. So we have a bit more time. Thank you, Chairman.
Can I ask first, as they are doing with their repairments?
This.
Okay, I'll wait.
Hi, good evening. Firstly, I would like to thank you for your fruitful sharing. My name is Xinyu. I'm a first-year bachelor student from University of Amsterdam, major in politics and cultural studies. And my question is, given your extensive experience in shaping economic policies and fostering international collaborations, how do you perceive the impact of domestic policies and international relations on the success of global initiatives? Thank you.
How do you analyze, how do you assess the impact of domestic policies on...
And international relations on the success of global initiatives or the success of business?
Okay, so the impact on domestic policies and international relations on the success of
business,
of business. So it's international relations and domestic policies.
I am not involved in international relations. My job is to create jobs. So I only focus on economic side. If I have to con somebody to invest in Singapore, I'll do that. So I'm not in foreign policy. I'm not worried somebody's conflict. My job is to find enough investors to come to Singapore, both local and international, to create jobs, to make sure that our young people and our working people have a job. And industries change, I need to find another job. So the key is that it's not international politics, it's basic economic. If a leader cannot provide jobs for his country, there is no progress. There's no political stability. The most important word in my career is a four-letter word called jobs. Any good political leader must create jobs. Giving people promises, giving me more money to use is no use. Ultimately, you owe it to your people who elect you to create jobs. Understand?
Can I ask a follow-up question? Yeah.
You can ask your follow-on question, but I'll also ask the two gentlemen sitting behind you to also ask their questions,
Okay.
and then we see the group of questions. Please,
go ahead.
you can ask your follow-on question first.
To what extent policies will influence to attract talents to work for Singapore? Because I know nowadays in Europe, in Germany, they have talent visa policies in order to attract high talent people to work for Germany. Does Singapore have similar policies to attract talent working people to work for Singapore?
Okay, so that's talent attraction policies, and I would say that's a huge topic, and there's a lot written on it as well. So we might not get time to go too deep, but there's a lot of material there as well. Thank you for that. I'll ask the gentleman behind you. Yeah.
Go ahead. No, he's been staying there a long time.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Yeah.
Hello, Mr. Chairman. My name is Nolan, and I'm a master student in venture creation program at NUS. I have some question about your earlier career. So in your previous discussions, you emphasized the various strategies to persuading the talents and asked them to join you. which you call it con. And however, I'm curious about your approach to identifying those individuals who would make some good partners. So are there specific methods or criteria for you use to find those talents? Or could you tell about the characteristics that you would appreciate? Thank you.
Well, when I was trying to build biomedical science, I was interested in three main areas for biomedical science, which are still important. First is cancer, second is stem cells, and third, immunology. And I looked through the literature, who are the key scientists in this area. I underlined them, I cold call on them. Right? For example, I went to MRC, George Rogers stepping down, and George Rogers is an expert in imaging. So I wanted a good imaging, especially for us to analyze clinical trials for all the testing. So I'm going to see him cold call. Obviously, it took me time to convince. I said, look, why do you come to Singapore, be my guest, visit us, see our hospitals, see our university, and so on, and then tell me what I can do. So to con people, you must have the patience. And I slowly to work on them. You can't say, I got a job for you. He doesn't owe you a job. You need to convince the person slowly to see how he can add value. And then guys realize, yeah, maybe I can help this area. Then what facilities, what support you need? Oh, I need an imaging facility, I need a 9 Tesla imaging equipment. So okay, we'll buy for you. So it takes, in a sense, you're trying to bribe him to come. And that's very important because why should a person come here? He's a CEO MRC, he has all the expertise, expert in imaging. So we built in A-Star all the facilities because I managed to con him to come down. All right, and the key is that when people feel they are wanted, they are valued, I think most of them are willing to give their time. It's not just pay, but you must be willing to give. Okay, when I tried to recruit Liu, I went to visit NCI. Dr. John was with me, National Cancer Center in the US, $9 billion budget. He was a number 2. Richard Clauston was number 1. I know Richard, but I don't think I can recruit him. Liu is a Hong Kong Chinese chief of science. And after I left the meeting, this was in June 2000, John Wong was with me, says, Chairman, you're trying to recruit him. Yeah, I'll try. So by December, I sent him a letter. This is my offer. These are terms. He called me and said, look, can I have my own building? I said, okay, you tell me what you want. Then I built a building for you. How Biopolis came about. I built a building for him, and therefore the whole of Biopolis is today. So you must be able to con a person with temptations, with assets that you want. So it's not just conning, but you must have something to offer him. And he came here and built his expertise, and Eddie went back, he ran Jazz and animal facility in UK. He's now retired. He's still in touch with me. He's now living in Illinois. And that's it. And his one of his son grew up. You know, to convince him to come to Singapore, he says, I have a problem. I might not be able to come because my son, 16-year-old, has a girlfriend. So he's not willing to come. I say, well, I find my girlfriend in Singapore. Yeah. And then anyway, the son came here for the father succeeded. He's now a scientist himself, married. So you must be willing to be for tricks to con people over.
I'm going to take 3 questions. The gentleman who's now standing up and the gentleman behind him, and then this gentleman in white. So 3 questions, and then the next batch of 3 questions later. So if you can start first.
Hello. Hi, my name is Fang Zha. I'm an NUS student. I believe all of us here are interested in entrepreneurship. And I believe the core of entrepreneurship is to effect change in society, right? Which I believe Mr. Philip Yeo is something he believes in so. So I wonder, why do you choose the public service route instead of the entrepreneurship route that most of us seems more interested in here? Yeah.
Thank you. We'll hold that. The gentleman behind you.
Hello, Mr. Chairman. Since everybody's calling you Chairman, I might as well call you Chairman. I'm Sedu and I'm from India, and I'm doing my master's in venture creation here at NUS. And I have a question for you, and it's, you have been closely associated with Singapore and Southeast Asia's economic and business landscape throughout the years. What trends and patterns have you observed that you believe will continue into the future? and how you think young entrepreneurs like us can tap into these opportunities.
And one last one here.
Hi. Oh, hi, Mr. Yo, Chairman. My name is Zach. So I started my urban greenery business at the age of 23, 24. I'm actually 32 now, but they still classify me as a youth. Through my journey as a youth, I'm extremely amazed and inspired when I visited Jurong Island during my Climate Youth Development Program last year. And it's a country like Singapore that we have no resources, we have nothing, but we're actually one of the top refineries of the entire world. Jurong Island is just one story. I believe you have made a lot of things happen and really appreciate the transparency and openness that you are sharing with us. And I believe that it really will go a long way. So my question is, I think in the past 7 years building companies as well as a social enterprise called City Sprouts during COVID, one thing is what I realized is that the way people are looking at entrepreneurship and businesses is also changing slightly from the way that I was hiring people when I was much younger, when everyone was older than me. Now, whoever I hire is actually younger than me. So it's, things are slightly changing. What's one thing is quite similar to the previous question. What's some of the waves and changes that you see in the private sector or businesses or value creation within Singapore that you see is potentially something that we should look into as a young generation of Singapore, that we can create the new Jurong Island for the future equivalent, if we might. Yeah.
Thank you. So I just summarized the three questions. We started off with why did you join the public sector, right? And then trends in Southeast Asia, including Singapore, and the way forward for businesses amidst these trends.
Okay, let me start first. First question, I was bonded. Well, I had a Colombo Plan scholarship funded by the Canadian government, not funded by the Singapore government. But since the award was managed by Public Service Commission, I have to serve a 5 years bond. And those days, the bond was very cheap, 50,000. I could have bought and sell up. Because I was signed by PSC to Ministry of Finance to do budget. After 1 month, I complained. They let me go to defense. And because in defense, I have my own freedom to do my own work, do everything I want, so I stay on. So I managed to finish my bond actually by 1974. At that time, Dr. Goh was my minister, Pang Tipor and PubSec. They all heard I'm going to run away because as far as I'm concerned, I refused to take my civil service exam. I didn't take my language exam, my Mandarin 0, right? So I got job offers. So Dr. Goh convinced me, I know you want to do a PhD, you want to do a PhD in operational research, MINDEF will fund you. Then I thought if I get a scholarship from MINDEF, I'll serve another bond again. Then the PSC was looking for this US government Fulbright scholarship. Singapore was the first, I think I'm among the first to get it. And I thought the Fulbright scholarship is paid by US government, should be bond free. Unfortunately, I forgot. They still got a bond. And then Dr. Goh says, I want you to come back to defense. So the reason I'm in public service is not because of choice, but actually any one time I could leave. So I look at public service as finish my bond, I move on, finish my bond, move on. So fortunately, I had a good boss, Dr. Goh, Ang Chun, and then the economy went down in effect. Otherwise, I would have left private sector. So because I refused to take my promotion exam, civil service exam, I never was really confirmed. So it doesn't. So I'm not. That's why the title of the book. In fact, the writer of the book was the Philip Yo story. I said that's very boring. It's neither civil nor servant. That's the title because I never consider myself a civil. My job, I will do a job if the job is interesting. Not because I'm in the public sector, private sector. I could have very well done in the private sector too. It's up to me. If the job is interesting, I go and do the job. The public sector, during my time, I had a lot of freedom. I don't know about today, but in those days, I could do anything what I want to do. I could do everything. And as far as I'm concerned, I got good bosses who allowed me to do a lot of illegal things. I'm not too sure civil servants today are allowed to do a lot of illegal things. They are more clear, worried. Because as far as I'm concerned, if they're not happy, you can walk out. So the key is that don't feel tied down mentally. Get a job, learn from a job. If the job is not interesting, move on. And therefore, I look at my whole career as I was never a civil servant. And that's my tag, neither civil not servant. It's still there.
Yeah, I think that we're very glad that you were bonded in the first instance and could not leave. But there was a second part of the questions as well, the trends that you see in Southeast Asia. What does it mean for businesses in Southeast Asia, including in Singapore?
Actually, if you look at ASEAN today, there are 10 countries. There are 2 countries I believe has a lot of potential for us, which I do a lot of interaction with them. One is Vietnam. I started in Vietnam Industrial Park in 1994. Now, under Sembcorp, I was chairman of Sembcorp. Today, we have about 14 parks in Vietnam. Same partner. Sembcorp is still a major shareholder together with the Vietnamese partner, all over Vietnam, all over North and South. Then the other thing I look at is Indonesia and Batam Bintang. We created a job because I need to find labor. So there are 2 economies in ASEAN I see has great potential for us, market-wise, Vietnam and Indonesia. Indonesia is 270 million people, and I believe there's a lot of opportunities for us to do work there. Singapore is not a market, so wherever you set up enterprise in Singapore, don't look at the local market. You will die of hunger. Start looking around where even in Malaysia it's possible, but Vietnam, Indonesia, even Thailand. In fact, I hope the Thai government in the early days in defense. So now in one of our companies, we have projects, factories in Ayutthaya and another place. So the region is, if you are a young Singaporean, look for jobs in ASEAN. Move out. Get out of your comfort home because the market here is very tiny. You must be willing to learn the language. For example, when I set up office in Jakarta at China EDB, I sent my officer to Gajah Mada University for 1 whole year. I want my officer to read and write Bahasa. They can read the newspaper, they can speak Indonesian, they get a degree, then you stay there for 3 to 5 years. So you must be willing to go there and learn. In fact, if I were you, Mandarin is important, but I would say the most important language as far as I'm concerned, besides Malaysia is Indonesia. Most Indonesians don't speak English. So if I were you, value up, polish up your Bahasa. The Bahasa is different from us. The market potential is there. And every now and then I still have dealings with Indonesia. My own view is that half of ASEAN, between Vietnam and Indonesia, is 370 million people. Look for projects, look for partners there. Right? Philippines, I'm not so familiar. Thailand, I know quite well, but Thailand is a big challenge because they're well developed. The country that's less developed is Vietnam and Indonesia. Chairman A-Star, I brought 550 young people from Vietnam, age of Sec 1 to JC2, all funded by A-Star. I sent them, and they are all tested for maths and science. English is terrible, but they are very bright kids. I sent them to different secondary schools in Singapore. Free education for Sec 3 to Sec 4, JC2. That means 15 years old, Sec 3 to JC2. And they are free to stay in Singapore, to study in Singapore, or get a scholarship. Of the 500, I selected only 7. And of 7 today, they are Singaporeans. They were sent overseas to do a bachelor, do a PhD. One is a doctor, one is science, they're all here. The key, our talent pool is finite, but there's no reason why you cannot steal talent. I remember I was with Mr. Lee Kuan Yew in Hanoi. He was there to give a lecture to all the Communist Party leaders. After that, 4 deputy prime ministers hosted dinner. Mr. Lee, myself, and his secretary, Xiao Hiang. And one of the DPM told Mr. Lee, Philip Yeoh steals my people. So I told him, I said, I'm training your people for you. Because if I didn't bring them to Singapore, they will not get to MIT. One of them went to MIT Computer Science, he still competes with me. One went to Harvard, did a PhD. So my key for Singapore, if we want to grow our nation, you must steal people. Our population is not increasing. We should increase our intake of foreign students, bright foreign students, to at least 20-25%. Because if I can capture 20-25%, even if they spend 5 years here, 10 years here, they build a relationship. And the link is there. For Singapore to grow, we cannot be like Bumi. We only want Singaporeans. If I have to steal people from Ukraine, Iran, I will steal people. So key for Singapore growth, steal people, kidnap people. It's very important. I was instrumental to help 2 scholars for A-Star. Young ladies from Ukraine. I funded her PhD here at NUS in biomedical science. The boy is from Iran, but he's Armenian. He's not a Muslim. I didn't realize there are a lot of Armenians in Iran. He came here, did computer science, he's still here. Finally, they got married. Ukrainian girl, Iranian, Armenian. So they applied for the PR. Everybody rejected them. So I have to appeal for them right to ICA. Last 2 weeks ago, right, Lisa, they are happy they got a PR. If I were running Singapore, I would steal more people. The key to Singapore is talent. If you don't steal people, you can't grow. Your population is declining. You're not multiplying. People have more pets than babies now.
Okay. Last. I think we have time just for a very quick last round of questions. So there were 2 here and 1 over there. This will be the last group of questions that we take. Would you like to start first? Or, okay, I see you're all poised. You can.
Okay, I'll use the time then.
Yes.
Until they get ready. So first question is, did you have specific role models that you learned from? And if so, how did you choose them? And what were the greatest things you learned from them? Then what do you think are the most important technological innovations in order of priority that Singapore or the world needs right now? And if you had a son or daughter in their 20s wanting to create meaningful technological innovation, how would you advise them to spend their 20s?
A big range of questions. We'll hold that first and come to this part of the room.
Hello. Okay. Hi, Mr. Yo. So I'm Vicente. I just became an entrepreneur and trying to start my own thing. So my question is, what would people find value in how do you find the value that people, how do you find what people value so that you can con them to buy what you promise them? And the second thing is how do you ensure that you deliver what you promise them so that, you don't actually con them, but really deliver what you promised them in the first place so that they come back every single time? Thank you.
Thank you. Was there a question? No, okay. So this is the last group of questions. I'm just going to recap. Role models, how do you choose your role models? That was one question. I guess that's linked to how do you figure out, as a people-related question, how do you figure out what would appeal to someone you're trying to con, and how do you make sure you can deliver what you said you would deliver? That's one group of questions. The second one was on technological innovations, and maybe we'll treat that somewhat separately. So how do you choose your role models?
Well, the key is I don't choose my role model. I look for people who have knowledge that I really need to transfer here. So, for example, when I was looking at cancer in 2000, one of the key papers I read was P53. P53 is a common cancer gene. 50% of all the cancer is P53, if anybody you read. Then I read a paper by this young professor in UK, Cancer UK. He was only about 48, 49. He wrote a paper on P53. He got knighted. Became Sir David Lane, age of 49, 50. I went to London to see him, invited him. He said, well, I want to create a company to do cancer drugs. My company is called Cyclocell. So would you invest? So I said, how much do you want? £1 million. Okay, done. Right? So I started that way. The project took off. Then I said, okay, can you do me a favor? I invest in you. Can you come to Singapore once in a while to visit our IMCB, review their work? He came. After 1 year, I said, can you be the chairman of SAB? And after 2 years, I said, why don't you come over to Singapore full time? So you must catch your fish slowly. Right? Now, his project unfortunately succeeded, but the problem with developing cancer drugs, the cost is not in the research, the cost is in the clinical trial. So he kept on raising money, and every time he raised money, he get diluted. Eventually, the project succeeded, by which time his share was very little. So Sir David Lane came here at the age of 49, 50, took care of our biomedical IMCB, took care of research. His daughters are scientists now, he's still in touch with me. But if you want to catch fish, you must have patience. You must be willing to help to convince it. And the key is I am very good at conning people. And because I believe I'm going to get my job done if you get the right people, the good people, and give all the support. So when I was chairman A-Star, Any of the scientists, any of the young students can walk to my office and complain. I get accused of spoiling them. Because to me, they are prima donnas, and they are the people I have to pamper to because I want their intellectual talent. Now, when somebody takes over from me and it becomes a bureaucracy, that you can only see the channel of A-Star, if you go through so many channels, the organization will die. I definitely will die. Because the key in life is an organization succeeds not because it's organized, but because it's the people. If the people you don't value, they get demotivated, they leave, you're left only with a building. So a good leader must know how to convince people and keep people. Because every person that you select and recruit must be important enough to you that you give them the freedom or enough ropes to hang themselves. And the key is managing people is really managing them as prima donnas. You manage them as a bureaucrat, as another subordinate, you will fail. If I want to create a gangster society, I'll find very good gangsters too. Because if I find gangsters, I must find all willing to do. So the key in life is whether it's running a gangster group or running a research group or running a government, the key is talent. And that talent likes to be given the freedom to do his job, freedom to get a job done, and not be micromanaged. And that's the biggest challenge. Most organizations die because they get micromanaged to death. Because when I work with Dr. Goh, he never gave me trouble. He always accused me where the guy disappeared to. But I was running around in factories. I spent my 7 in the morning to 12 o'clock in a factory, charter industry, armament industry. After lunch, I eat down there, I come to Bindae and work. So my office hours were very long. And I was only 24 years old, 25 years old. At age of 26, I had 10,000 people under my direct control. I was responsible for 4 companies. And my pay was only $1,100, no complaint. As far as I could say, if you don't pay me more, I can always quit and go outside. And then Dr. Goh realized, look, this guy didn't take an exam, didn't do anything. How can you pay him at $1,100? He got me promoted 3 steps ahead, increased my pay to $1,700. I didn't complain. So if you have value good people, you must also take care of them. You don't take care of them, you're self-centered. You cannot con people. If I were to build a gangster group, I must find good gangsters that will feel that they owe me, they get all the support me to do whatever they do. So the key to get talent, you must give them the freedom to do their work. If you are bureaucrats trying to micromanage them, and that's what happened when the organization is a pyramid. When it's flat, I know everybody. When it's a pyramid, you only see the next level. And the trouble is that most organizations today are pyramids. The top doesn't know what the bottom, and everything goes through the middle level, many layers of bureaucrats, and that's very difficult. If you listen to Jensen Huang, there's a video by Jensen Huang in Taipei just recently. Someone asked me, how many people manage you? And he was very right. He said, I have 70 people reporting to me. He said, why can't I have some people reporting? Because I deal with them, all of them. Why do you need to go through so many layers? His view is that if you have many layers, you have to go to pass the line to the next. Why do I need so many managers? I'd rather deal with people who's doing the project. So Jensen Huang is correct. At the age of 60, finally his company worth trillions of dollars. But he deals with all his staff one-to-one. So the span of control is that you need to value people, you need to give them support, then the things will take off. Because at the end of the day, they get a job done. You can only, in fact, your work is done through these people. So when people have multiple pyramid structure level, deputy director, deputy chair, you become a pyramid, then nobody gets done. At the end of the day, the guys in front feel they are isolated and neglected. If I were to run in EDB, when I was chairman of EDB, I spent my time traveling on the road, visiting companies. I don't think I managed anybody, just follow me and go out and work. The day-to-day work was done by Tan Chin Nam at home. Or even the A-side level to the MD, but out on the road. And the key is to I know what my people are doing. By going on the road, visiting companies, visiting universities, visiting research labs, I possibly know more than anybody else. But I only get my knowledge through people. So if you want to succeed in life, you must get people to share your same vision and willingness to, and you must back them 100%. Don't delegate the authority. You must really give it to them, and they will get a job done. People don't work for money. People won't feel being valued. If I can con you to be valued and I pay you peanuts, you still work.
Thank you. I'm afraid we don't have any time for more questions, but I just wanted to say there was one question that was left unanswered, which is technologies. And I want to combine that with the written questions that came up. And I know we're running out of time, so to the extent that you can say a little bit about what are the key technologies that you think we should pay attention to, or the key industries that Singapore should focus on in the future, and then that will be our closing question for this evening.
Well, today every young person who read the papers talks about AI. AI is only a tool. The key is how you use AI in different fields, whether in medicine, drug development, in education, in auditing accounts. A lot of people get very worried that if the AI can do all the review of accounts, it's our job. But it's not true. I just told somebody today, even if I get AI to do the auditing of the company accounts, someone has to sign off the accounts to satisfy the MAS or the stock exchange. And the AI can't do that. So the responsibility and judgment is still with the key people. The key is AI as a tool, and AI will be used in every field. Will there be responsibility with redundancy? Yes, there will be redundancy. In the same way as the typewriter disappeared, computer input by cards gone, so jobs will change. The key is that the demand for people of intellect, people who need to learn, to read, to apply mind, is still there. So the burden is more on mental to find work for young people today. So AI will go every field. Now we're talking about AI in analysis of drug treatment, side effects, X-ray, a lot of things. But the other area of interest is engineering is still important. And now you look at energy. Why did China succeed in EV versus the Europeans? The Europeans, the Japanese, the Americans were focused on internal combustion engine. The skill set is there. All the supporting industry is there. So for China to try to duplicate, to compete with everybody else in automobile manufacturing is very challenging. So the most practical way is everybody knows a golf cart. A golf cart is basically an EV. So what China did was very simple. If I can focus on bypassing the ICE, go straight to batteries. What's a battery? Battery is DC. So you need a DC to AC converter because batteries are DC. The AC drives the induction motor, drives the wheel. So you look at the EV car, basically a battery, AC DC converter, induction motor, 3 items. I mean, the rest is power management. So the China today has overtaken everybody else in EV. And not only that, they are doing it in a way where they have reduced every component is available. Hardware and software management. So now Europeans are very worried. Europeans are trying to raise tariffs, so the Chinese say, we stop buying brandy from you. So the French are very worried. If they cannot sell brandy, the only people who drink brandy and every other Yamseng is the Chinese. So the European, America will block the tariff to 100%. That doesn't bother the Chinese. BYD can sell seal for 9,500 US. Even increase the tariff to 100%, only 20,000. But they're just forgetting the market. So BYD has just announced they will open a factory in Turkey. They have a factory in Hungary. So the Americans, I tell my American friends, America is suffering from a national insecurity. If you are a powerful country, you don't have to worry about China. But because you've been negligent, you focus on finance sector, focus on politics, you don't focus on industry, Chinese can overtake you. The more you block the Chinese on chip, they will make it. Well, 5 years, 10 years, they will do it. By right, you should force the Chinese to open the market, buy more from you, sell more to them, then they are dependent on you. But now by closing the market, don't sell them ASL, lithography equipment, don't sell them NVIDIA top chips, you will do it. So a nation is like a person. The more you force me to be self-sufficient, I will do it. So the key in our personal is we must learn to be self-sufficient. You must learn to read. You must learn to multiply yourself by getting people to help your job. You only succeed because you have the personal knowledge and power to do the things. It's the same for individuals, it's the same for countries, it's the same for industry. If an industry doesn't renovate, update itself, it will die. And that's what. So China is a threat, not because of China itself, because the West has been negligent. The manufacturing sector in America today accounts for 11% of GDP. 11%. That includes the defense industry. China manufacturing share of GDP is about 30%. At one time it was 35, 38. You need to keep manufacturing because you make a product you can sell to everybody. And you can sell everywhere in the world, whether it's batteries, induction motors, converter motors. The key, you must make something to sell. So when a country just depends on financial services, legal services, it doesn't create many jobs. The manufacturing sector has many multipliers. Manufacturing sector create multiplier for services too. But if a country becomes service-oriented, what do you sell? Just purely trading mentality. You won't grow. So now Japanese government is very worried because they're trying to create old semiconductor industry again. Because at one time they were booming away real estate. They're trying to create jobs because you need to create new technology to challenge young people. The Koreans are the same. India is trying to catch up because if you don't create enough jobs for your country, you cannot have political stability. And that political stability is a self. You cannot get investors to come in. So it's a chicken and egg. No political stability, no investment, no. So the key in any good leadership is to find good know-how to make a product or service and sell. And what the Chinese does is everywhere is, I'm not going to invade your country. Okay, buy my equipment, buy my shares. So for us as a Singapore, we can look at our neighbors. What can we sell to Indonesia? What can we sell to Vietnam? Go and visit there, stay there, work there for a while, and explore yourself because they also have a lot of young people. I took 550 Vietnamese here. They are still in contact with me now and then. I took students from Iran, PhD, there are 300 of them, they're all around. The more I can take international students, the more I can build network. The more I can access. I took students from India. One of them, my scientist, is Vijay. He's now doing a special solar cells. He's coming from India. I can steal people from any country to add to my talent pool. I can grow Singapore. The technology is always there. There's no shortage of new industries. But the key to technology is people and talent.
I think that's a wonderful way to end. Thank you so much, Chairman. I think I have to say again that we're very glad you were bonded in the first instance, and we've all learned so much this evening. It's been a very wide-ranging conversation. Thank you for all your questions as well. I'm not sure whether we can catch Chairman if you've got any lingering questions on the way out, but thank you again for a very, very useful session. Thank you.